Jake Morrison sat in his captain's chair watching the stars drift past the ship's main window. The Terran Starbound had been patrolling the outer edge of human space for 3 months now, and everything seemed quiet. Too quiet, maybe. His fingers drummed against the armrest as he thought about the reports coming in from Earth about new technologies and discoveries that kept pushing the boundaries of what anyone thought possible. Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a datapad full of diplomatic messages. She had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years, and had seen the growing tension between humanity and the other species. The aliens seemed nervous about how fast humans were advancing in science and technology. Every month brought news of another breakthrough that took other species centuries to achieve. "Any word from the Council today?" Jake asked as Lisa settled into her chair beside him. "Nothing yet, but I have a feeling that will change soon." "They have been asking too many questions about our research programs lately," Lisa said while scanning. Through her messages, Jake nodded and turned back to watch the stars. He knew that humanity had been pushing boundaries since joining the Galactic Council 50 years ago. Dr. Alan Brooks had just finished his quantum fold drive research that could revolutionize space travel. Commander Kelly Sanders had developed new military tactics that proved superior to anything the Council had seen before. Every human achievement seemed to make the aliens more uncomfortable. The communication system suddenly came to life with an incoming transmission alert. Jake straightened in his chair as the Galactic Council's official seal appeared in the air. Above the bridge, the crystalline symbol pulsed with authority and importance. Lisa put down her coffee and moved closer to the holographic display. "Captain Morrison," the synthetic voice of Council Speaker Zethkar filled the bridge. "The human delegation is hereby summoned to Council Station Nexus Prime. Your species has violated Galactic Statute 847C regarding technological advancement beyond designated parameters." Jake felt his stomach drop. This was the summons they had all been expecting but hoping would never come. The Council had rules about how fast species could advance, and humanity had been breaking those rules for years. He looked at Lisa, who had gone pale but kept her diplomatic composure. "The charges against your species include development of weapons beyond your maturity level, creation of faster-than-light communication systems in defiance of natural progression, and demonstration of military capabilities that threaten galactic stability." The voice continued with mechanical precision. Lisa stepped forward toward the hologram. "Council Speaker, we request clarification on these charges. Humanity has shared all our discoveries with the galactic community according to standard protocols. Sharing is not the issue, Ambassador Carter. The rate and nature of your advancement is the concern. You will report to Nexus Prime within 72 hours for formal review and judgment." Zethkar responded without emotion. Jake watched as the other bridge crew members exchanged worried glances. Everyone knew what this meant. The Council was finally moving to put limits on human progress. They wanted humanity to slow down and stop innovating so fast. The question was whether Earth would accept those limits or choose a different path. "We understand, Council Speaker. The Terran Starbound will depart for Nexus Prime immediately," Jake said in his most professional voice. "Compliance is expected. Failure to appear will result in immediate sanctions against all human colonies and trade routes. Council Speaker Zethkar out." The hologram faded, leaving the bridge in uncomfortable silence. Jake stood up and walked to the main window where he could see the distant glow of Earth's sun. Home seemed very far away right now, and he wondered if things would ever be the same after this meeting. Lisa was already working on her datapad, sending encrypted messages back to Earth about the summons. The President and the Earth Council needed to know what was happening and what the Galaxy Council planned to do about humanity's rapid advancement. "What do you think they want exactly?" Jake asked as he continued staring out at the stars. "Control," Lisa said without looking up from her pad. "They want us to stop being better than them at everything. They want us to slow down and follow their rules about how fast we can grow and learn." Jake nodded slowly. He had suspected this day would come ever since humanity first joined the galactic community. Other species had thousands of years to develop their technology slowly. Humans. Did everything fast and that made the aliens nervous? They saw humanity as dangerous because humans could not be predicted or controlled easily. Send a message to Earth, Jake said finally. Tell them we are complying with the summons but recommend they prepare for all possibilities. Lisa looked up from her pad with understanding in her eyes. Both of them knew that this meeting at Nexus Prime might change everything for humanity. The question was whether the change would be on the Council's terms or humanity's terms, the Terran. Starbound began turning toward the hyperspace jump point that would take them to Council Station Nexus Prime. Jake watched Earth's sun grow smaller in the distance and wondered if he would ever see home the same way again. Something was ending today and something else was about to begin. Council Station Nexus Prime hung in space like a massive metal spiderweb stretched between the stars. Jake guided the Terran Starbound through the heavy traffic of alien ships surrounding the station. Hundreds of vessels from 43 different species created a confusing maze of different technologies and designs. Some ships looked like living creatures while others appeared to be made of pure crystal or flowing metal. Lisa stood beside him reviewing her notes one final time before they docked. She had spent the entire 3-day journey preparing for this meeting and studying every legal document the Council had ever produced. The charges against humanity were serious, but she believed they had strong arguments to defend their actions. The docking bay looks crowded, Jake observed as he maneuvered the ship toward their assigned berth. Looks like every species in the Council sent representatives to watch this trial. They want to see what happens when someone breaks the advancement rules, Lisa said grimly. Either humanity gets punished as an example or we set a new precedent for how the Council works. The Starbound settled into its docking clamps with a soft thud. Jake shut down the engines and activated the security systems. Neither of them knew how long this trial would last or whether they would be leaving in their own ship when it was over. The human delegation that Earth had sent was waiting in the main airlock. General Paul Davis represented the military interests. With his crisp uniform and serious expression, Dr. Nancy Walsh had come from the Science Council to defend humanity's research programs. Carlos Rivera was there as a civilian representative to speak for the common people of Earth and the colonies. Ready for this? Paul asked as they walked through the station's corridors toward the main council chamber. As ready as anyone can be for a trial that could determine our species' future, Lisa replied while checking her datapad one more time. The council chamber was carved from a single, massive asteroid and lined with environmental suits and breathing apparatus for dozens of different alien species. The walls curved up and away, creating an amphitheater effect that made every word echo dramatically. At the center of the chamber was a raised platform where the human delegation would stand to answer the charges. Speaker Zethkar moved across the floor with clicking sounds from his insect-like legs. His species looked like giant praying mantises with extra arms and glowing eyes. Behind him came representatives from all the major council factions, including the militaristic hegemony and the mysterious ethereal collective, the species known as humans has consistently exceeded technological and strategic parameters established for developing civilizations, Zethkar announced to the assembled aliens. They have created weapons beyond their maturity level, developed faster-than-light communication systems in defiance of natural progression, and demonstrated military capabilities that threaten galactic stability. Dr. Walsh stepped forward to respond. Council Speaker, we have shared our discoveries freely with all species. Our medical advances have saved millions of lives across 12 different worlds. Our agricultural techniques have ended famines on 7 planets. The benefits are not in question, came the mechanical voice of Councillor Vexen from the hegemony faction. The concern is the rate of advancement and the potential for misuse. Rapid technological development indicates dangerous instability in a species. Carlos moved beside Dr. Walsh. With respect, Councillor Humanity has demonstrated responsibility with every new technology we have developed. We have used our advances to help others, not to dominate or control. That may be true now, Zethkar replied. But what happens when your species faces a crisis or feels threatened? Will you still be so generous with weapons that can destroy star systems or ships that can appear anywhere without warning? General Davis stepped forward with his hands clasped behind his back. The same question could be asked of any species with advanced technology. The Kethmori have planet-killing weapons. The Crystalline Consortium has mind control technology. Why is humanity being singled out? Because other species developed these capabilities over thousands of years with proper oversight and guidance, Vexan answered. Humanity has compressed millennia of advancement into decades. This rapid growth is unprecedented and dangerous. Lisa could feel the mood in the chamber shifting. The aliens were not interested in debate or discussion. They had already decided that humanity was a threat that needed to be controlled. The trial was just a formality to justify whatever restrictions they planned to impose. What exactly are you proposing? Jake asked from his position at the back of the human group. Zethkar's mandibles clicked together in what might have been satisfaction. Humanity will submit to technological restrictions and mandatory oversight. All research programs will require council approval before implementation. Military innovations will be subject to immediate review and possible prohibition. Independent exploration beyond your designated sector will cease. The chamber fell completely silent as the implications of these demands sank in. Every human present understood what was being asked of them. Not cooperation or partnership, but complete submission to alien control over human development and growth. Dr. Walsh spoke first. You are asking us to stop being human. Exploration and innovation are fundamental parts of who we are as a species. You will adapt or face the consequences, Zethkar replied coldly. And what consequences would those be? General Davis asked with an edge in his voice. Economic sanctions, military blockades, expulsion from council space, and isolation from all galactic trade and communication. Vexan listed mechanically. Carlos looked around at his fellow humans. So our choices are slavery or exile. Those are harsh words for reasonable restrictions designed to maintain galactic stability, Zethkar said. Lisa felt something shift inside her as she listened to the aliens discuss humanity's future like they were negotiating a trade agreement. These beings were afraid of human potential and wanted to crush it before it could threaten their comfortable control over the galaxy. We request time to consider your terms, Lisa said formally. You have 1 hour, Zethkar announced. The council will reconvene for your answer. As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, Lisa caught Jake's eye. Both of them were thinking the same thing. This was not really about technological advancement or galactic stability. This was about power and control, and fear of what humanity might become if left free to grow. The human delegation gathered in a small conference room adjacent to the main council chamber. Through the transparent aluminum walls, they could see alien ships drifting past like sleeping giants against the star field. The room felt cramped and isolated compared to the vast amphitheater where their fate was being decided by creatures who had never walked on Earth or breathed its air. Carlos Rivera was the first to break the heavy silence that had settled over them. They are scared. Of us, he said while staring out at the alien vessels. Every innovation we make, every problem we solve faster than they think possible, it makes them look backward and slow. Dr. Nancy Walsh nodded agreement as she pulled up research data on her tablet. The Kethmori have had spaceflight for over 3,000 years, but they never developed quantum computing. We managed it in 15 years after joining the council. The Aqualians have been studying genetics for millennia, but our medical advances in just 5 decades have surpassed everything they accomplished. General Paul Davis stood with his arms crossed looking grim. This is not really about technology or advancement rates. This is about control and power. They want humanity as a client species that follows orders, not as an equal member of their little club. Lisa Carter was studying the legal documents on her datapad with growing frustration. Article 12 of the Galactic Compact gives any member species the right to withdraw from council membership with a simple formal declaration. No approval needed, no waiting period, just a statement of intent. Jake Morrison looked up from where he had been staring at the floor. Withdraw completely. Leave the council entirely. Is that what you are suggesting? What other choice do we have? Paul replied with anger creeping into his voice. They want us to submit to complete control over our research, our military, our exploration, everything that makes us human. They want to turn us into a pet species that does tricks on command. Dr. Walsh pulled up more data on her screen. Without council membership, we lose access to established trade routes, diplomatic protections, and shared technology exchanges. We would be completely on our own in a galaxy full of species that already see us as dangerous. Better to be free and dangerous than safe and enslaved. Carlos said firmly. Lisa was reading through more legal documents trying to find alternatives. There might be other options. We could negotiate for limited restrictions or propose a compromise that gives the council some oversight while preserving our essential freedoms. Did you hear what they said in there? Jake asked. Mandatory approval for all research. Military. Review of every innovation. Prohibition on independent exploration. That is not compromise, that is total surrender. The debate continued for another 30 minutes with each person arguing different positions. Outside the window, alien ships continued their slow dance around the massive station. None of those species had ever faced the choice humanity was facing now. They had all accepted council control from the beginning or been forced into submission. Over time, finally Jake stood up and moved to the communication console. I am sending a message to Earth. This decision is too important to make without input from home. The quantum communication system connected them instantly to the presidential palace in Geneva, where Amanda Foster was waiting with her senior advisors. The secure channel ensured their conversation could not be intercepted by council surveillance systems. Madam President, Jake said as Foster's image appeared in the hologram, we have received the council's terms for continued human membership. Complete submission to alien oversight of all technological development, military innovation, and space exploration. Foster listened without expression as Lisa detailed the specific restrictions and penalties the council was demanding. The president had been expecting this confrontation for years but hoped it might be avoided through careful diplomacy and gradual compromise. What are your recommendations? Foster asked after hearing the full report. We cannot accept these terms, General Davis said immediately. They amount to the end of human independence and growth. We would become a subject species controlled by alien masters. The consequences of refusal are severe, Lisa added. Complete isolation from galactic civilization with possible military action if we continue advancing too rapidly. Foster was quiet for several long moments while she considered the implications. Through the hologram, they could see her advisors whispering urgently in the background. Finally, she looked directly into the camera with determination in her eyes. Bring our people home, she said simply, all of them. The message was clear even though Foster had not spoken the words directly. Humanity would not submit to alien control regardless of the consequences. The president was authorizing withdrawal from the Galactic Council and acceptance of whatever isolation or conflict might follow. Understood, Madam President, Jake replied. We will inform the Council of our decision. When the communication ended, the 5 humans sat in silence, absorbing what had just happened. They were about to sever humanity's connection to Galactic civilization and step into an uncertain future alone. No turning back after this? Carlos said softly. There was never really a choice, Dr. Walsh replied. A species that stops growing and learning is already dead? Better to face the unknown as free beings than live as comfortable slaves. They returned to the council chamber where all 43 Cs had gathered to hear humanity's answer. The amphitheater buzzed with alien conversations in dozens of different languages. Some species seemed confident that humanity would submit while others appeared nervous about what the humans might decide. Speaker Zethkar clicked across the floor to the central podium. Has the human delegation reached a decision regarding the council's terms? Jake stepped forward carrying a single data pad with their formal response. The chamber fell silent as hundreds of alien eyes focused on him. He could feel the weight of human history and future resting on the words he was about to speak. The United Earth government appreciates the Council's guidance over the past 50 years. He began in a clear, steady voice. However, we cannot accept limitations on our fundamental right to grow, learn, and explore. Murmurs of surprise and concern rippled through the alien assembly. This was not the submission they had expected. We invoke Article 12 of the Galactic Compact, Lisa announced, stepping beside Jake. Humanity formally withdraws from Council membership, effective immediately. The chamber erupted in a chaos of chittering, buzzing, mechanical protests, and alien exclamations. Through it all, the human delegation remained calm and composed. You will regret this decision, Councillor Vexen warned above the noise. No. Species survives alone in this galaxy without Council protection and support. Jake smiled grimly as he looked around at the panicking aliens. We will see about that. The withdrawal of humanity from galactic society happened with speed that shocked even the Council members who had demanded it. Within 6 months, every human colony, research station, diplomatic outpost, and commercial facility had been evacuated. Trade agreements were terminated overnight. Cultural exchange programs ended abruptly. Scientific collaborations were abandoned. The humans simply vanished from galactic civilization like smoke dispersing in a strong wind, Captain Ray Collins commanded the final evacuation flight from New Geneva Station, humanity's largest research facility in the Centauri sector. As his transport ship lifted away from the massive orbital platform, he watched through the view screen as the complex grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. 15 years of medical research, Dr. Helen, Ross said from the seat beside him, her voice heavy with regret. Joint projects with 7 different species. Cures for diseases that killed millions, all just abandoned. Ray looked at the data core stacked in the cargo hold behind them. Not abandoned? Relocated? Every piece of research, every discovery, every innovation is coming home with us? The evacuation had not been random or panicked despite its speed. For decades, humanity had been secretly surveying and preparing fallback positions in unexplored sectors beyond Council space. Admiral Gary Peterson had spent 20 years coordinating the largest logistical operation in human history, creating hidden supply depots, emergency colonies, and secure communication networks and systems no alien species had ever visited. When President Foster gave the order to withdraw, every human facility activated predetermined evacuation protocols. Ships appeared as if from nowhere to collect people and equipment. Entire research stations were dismantled and transported to secret locations. Military bases simply disappeared along with all their personnel and weapons. On Earth, now designated as humanity's fortress world, President Foster addressed a joint session of Congress in a speech broadcast to every human colony and ship. We are not refugees fleeing from a fight, she declared with fierce pride. We are pioneers embarking on the greatest adventure in human history. Free from Council restrictions, we will advance as far and as fast as our minds and courage can take. U.S. The Galactic Council initially dismissed humanity's withdrawal as a temporary tantrum that would end when humans realized how dependent they had become on alien technology and trade. Speaker Zethkar publicly predicted that humanity would return. Within a year, begging for readmission and willing to accept any terms for Council protection, many Council species celebrated the human departure, believing they had eliminated a dangerous and unpredictable threat to galactic stability. The hegemony faction declared victory over human arrogance. The Crystalline Consortium expressed relief that they no longer had to compete with human innovation. Even moderate species seemed pleased that the galaxy could return to its comfortable, predictable patterns of slow development. Dr. Timothy Green was working in a new laboratory, carved deep into an asteroid in the Ross sector when he achieved the first major breakthrough 6 months after the Exodus. His quantum fold technology allowed instantaneous travel across vast distances without using traditional hyperspace lanes or jump points. The implications were staggering for a species that had been cut off from established galactic travel routes. Commander, Susan Price volunteered to test the first prototype device in a small scout ship specially modified for the experiment. She activated the quantum fold drive while orbiting a star in the outer rim and found herself emerging near the Andromeda Galaxy 2.5 million light-years away. The return journey took only minutes and brought back data that revolutionized humanity's understanding of space, time, and the fundamental structure of the universe. Within 18 months of leaving the Council, human colonies began appearing in sectors that no alien species had ever explored or even detected. They built cities on worlds orbiting stars that did not appear on any galactic maps. They established mining operations in asteroid fields that existed in dimensions the Council could not perceive. President Foster visited New Terra, humanity's first major colony beyond the galactic rim, 2 years after the Exodus. The city sprawled across 3 continents of a planet that orbited a binary star system in a region the Council considered empty space. 500,000 humans lived and worked there in perfect harmony with the world's unique environment. "How many colonies do we have now?" Foster asked Admiral Peterson as they stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above New Terra. 47 major settlements and over 200 smaller outposts, Peterson replied while checking his datapad. "We are expanding faster than we ever did under Council oversight. No environmental impact studies. No alien approval processes, no restrictions on what we can build or where we can go." Foster nodded with satisfaction as she watched cargo ships arriving with supplies and new colonists. "And the Council still has no idea where we are. Their technology cannot detect our settlements or track our ships," Peterson confirmed. "As far as they know, humanity simply ceased to exist." The truth was more complex. Humanity had evolved beyond the Council's ability to perceive or understand them. Human ships used quantum fold technology that operated outside normal spacetime. Human colonies existed in dimensions that alien sensors could not penetrate. Human communication systems bypassed all known methods of interception or detection. Dr. Jennifer Barnes led a research team on the mobile station, Discovery, that traveled between distant galaxies collecting data and establishing new outposts. Her team had mapped over 300 previously unknown star systems and discovered dozens of worlds suitable for human habitation. They moved through space like ghosts, invisible to any technology the Council possessed. "The galaxy is so much larger than the Council ever imagined," she reported during a quantum communication with Earth. "There are entire regions filled with resources and opportunities that no alien species has ever exploited. We have access to technologies and materials that could advance our civilization by thousands of years." Back on Earth, the transformation was equally dramatic. Free from Council restrictions on research and development, human scientists pushed the boundaries of knowledge in every direction. New technologies emerged monthly. Industrial production increased exponentially. Energy systems became so efficient that scarcity was becoming a forgotten concept. Captain Steve Martinez commanded a cloaked observation post in the Vega system where he monitored Council communications and activities. Every conversation, every desperate message, every growing crisis was recorded and transmitted back to Earth for analysis. "They are starting to panic," he reported to his superiors. "Economic problems, technical failures, political instability. Everything humanity used to help them with is falling apart." President Foster reviewed these reports with grim satisfaction. The Council was learning the difference between partnership and dependency, between cooperation and exploitation. They had treated humanity as a useful resource to be controlled rather than as equals to be respected. The galaxy continued to turn, but now it turned without humanity. And in that absence, the true value of human participation was becoming impossible for the Council to ignore. The first sign of serious trouble came from the Outer Rim territories where human medical stations had once treated victims of the recurring scarlet plague that affected 3 different alien species. When the plague returned 18 months after humanity's withdrawal, more virulent and resistant than ever before, the affected colonies sent desperate emergency transmissions to Council medical facilities. begging for help. Dr. Zintik of the Aqualian Medical Consortium stared at the genetic sequence data streaming across his laboratory screens with growing horror. The plague had mutated in ways that made no sense according to established biological principles. Worse, every treatment protocol in the Council's medical database proved completely ineffective against the new strain. This pathogen is unlike anything we have encountered before, he reported to the Council emergency medical session via holographic transmission. Our best antiviral compounds have no effect. Traditional quarantine procedures are failing. The infection rate is doubling every 72 hours. What about the human medical protocols? Asked Dr. Vorthal from the Crystalline Consortium. They developed effective treatments for the previous outbreaks. Dr. Zinnik's expression grew grim. We have tried to contact human medical facilities for assistance. All communication attempts have failed. As far as our sensors can detect, human medical stations no longer exist. Speaker Zethkar participated in the emergency session from his private chambers on Nexus Prime. Contact the human government directly. Surely they will respond to a humanitarian crisis regardless of political differences. We have sent messages on all known frequencies and through every diplomatic channel, reported Communications Director Zelan. The humans do not respond to our transmissions. It is as if they have completely vanished from the galaxy. The plague spread to 7 star systems before finally burning itself out, leaving behind over 4 million dead who could have been saved if human medical expertise had been available. The Council medical facilities were forced to admit publicly that they had become dependent on human innovation and could not handle complex biological crises without assistance. 6 months later, the Kethmori Empire faced a massive rebellion in their outer colonial territories. For over 2 centuries, they had relied on human strategic advisors to maintain peace and stability in their far-flung domains. Human experts understood colonial psychology and could predict potential trouble before it erupted into violence. Without that guidance, the Kethmori military responded to a minor mining dispute with their traditional heavy-handed tactics. Orbital bombardment of civilian targets turned a local protest into a sector-wide uprising. Within weeks, 17 star systems had declared independence and formed a rebel alliance. Admiral Corval commanded the Imperial fleet sent to crush the rebellion. He had expected quick victory over poorly equipped colonial militias. Instead, he found himself facing an enemy that used tactics no Kethmori commander had ever encountered before. Where did they learn to fight like this? He wondered aloud as he watched his flagship's tactical display show another Imperial fleet destroyed by rebel forces in the Deneb system. These are mining colonies, not military academies. His tactical officer knew the answer, but hesitated to speak it. Intelligence reports suggested that several former human military advisors had remained behind when the exodus began. They were now training rebel forces in advanced strategic concepts that the Empire had no counter for. The rebellion succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. The Kethmori Empire lost control of 23 star systems and saw their military reputation shattered across the galaxy. Other subject species began questioning imperial authority and demanding independence. The economic collapse that followed was even more devastating than the political and military failures. Human agricultural techniques had fed dozens of worlds. Human manufacturing innovations had revolutionized production across multiple sectors. Human transportation systems had connected distant civilizations through efficient trade networks. Without human expertise, food production declined dramatically on worlds that had converted to human farming methods. Industrial centers shut down when they could not replicate human manufacturing processes. Trade routes collapsed as alien logistics systems proved inadequate for maintaining complex supply chains. On the agricultural world of Femter, Governor Yashek watched crop yields drop by 60% as the human-designed irrigation systems failed and no one knew how to repair them. The humans made it look so simple, he complained to his agricultural minister. They increased our food production by 400% with techniques we thought we understood. The industrial planet Machinist Prime faced similar problems. when their human-designed factories stopped working efficiently. Production dropped to pre-human levels as alien engineers struggled to maintain systems they had never truly comprehended on Nexus Prime. Council sessions grew increasingly desperate as crisis reports arrived daily from across the galaxy. Speaker Zethkar found himself facing accusations and demands he had no power to fulfill. "The humans must be forced to return," declared Councillor Thane of the Crystalline Consortium during one particularly heated session. "Our civilization is crumbling without their knowledge and assistance." "Forced how?" Zethkar clicked his mandibles. "In frustration, we cannot find them. Our most advanced sensors detect no trace of human activity anywhere in Council space. Our scout ships find nothing but empty installations where human colonies once operated." The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The Council had not just lost humanity's cooperation. They had lost access to an entire level of technological and intellectual capability that their own species could not replace. Councillor Vexen of the hegemony provided the most disturbing intelligence during a classified security briefing. "Our military analysis suggests that humanity advanced far beyond our initial estimates. Technologies we observed were likely just the basic level of their capabilities. If they chose to return as enemies rather than allies, we would have no effective defense." The implications sent shock waves through the Council leadership. They had driven away the most advanced species in the galaxy while assuming they could control or replace human contributions to galactic civilization. Captain Steve Martinez monitored these desperate Council communications from his cloaked observation post. Every panic transmission, every admission of failure, every desperate plea for human assistance was recorded and sent back to Earth. President Foster reviewed the intelligence reports with her senior advisors. The Council was learning hard lessons about the difference between partnership and dependency, between cooperation and exploitation. They had treated humanity as a useful resource rather than as equals worthy of respect. "They are beginning to understand what they have lost," Foster observed while studying the latest crisis reports. "The question is whether they have learned enough to change their fundamental attitudes." Dr. Michelle Barnes, now serving as Director of External Relations, pulled up additional data on her screen. Economic projections suggest total collapse of at least 12 Council civilizations within the next 5 years if current trends continue. "Military analysis indicates increasing instability across all sectors," Foster nodded grimly. The galaxy was paying the price for trying to control rather than partner with humanity. The lesson was harsh but necessary for any future relationship between humans and aliens. 5 years after humanity's withdrawal from galactic society, the Galactic Council existed as only a shadow of its former authority and influence. 12 member species had formally withdrawn to focus on their own survival as their civilizations struggled with problems they could not solve alone. 7 entire civilizations had collapsed completely, their populations scattered as refugees or absorbed by stronger neighbors. The remaining Council members fought desperately to maintain basic interstellar commerce and communication. Council Speaker Zethkar had been replaced twice in 5 years, each successor falling victim to the growing crisis and the impossible demands of species facing extinction. The current speaker, Yanthal of the Ethereal Collective, convened what everyone knew might be the final emergency session in Council history. "We must find the humans," she announced to the dwindling assembly of representatives. "Without their knowledge and direct assistance, our civilization faces complete collapse within the next standard year." The chamber that had once held delegates from 43 proud species now contained barely 20 representatives, many appearing via hologram because their governments could no longer afford to maintain permanent diplomatic missions. "Find them with what resources?" Councillor Vexen asked, his mechanical voice carrying notes of desperation that had never been present before. "Our long-range sensor networks have failed. Our scout fleets have been reduced to skeleton crews. We have searched every system within 500 light-years and found nothing but empty space where human colonies once existed." The truth was more complex than the Council could imagine. Humanity had not merely hidden from their former galactic neighbors. They had evolved so far beyond Council technology that detection was literally impossible using any methods the aliens possessed. Dr. Michelle Barnes stood in the command center of New Terra Prime, humanity's mobile capital ship that served as both government headquarters and advanced research facility. The massive vessel was larger than most space stations but remained completely invisible to Council sensors through quantum phase technology that operated outside normal spacetime. Long-range monitoring shows another Council search fleet in the Proxima sector, she reported to Admiral Chris Thompson while reviewing sensor data. They are still using the same detection grids and search patterns from 5 years ago. Admiral Thompson nodded while studying the tactical display. Their technology has actually regressed since we left. No innovation, no development, just endless repetition of failing methods. The observation was accurate but hardly surprising. Council species had become dependent on human innovation to drive their technological advancement. Without that constant stream of new ideas and solutions, alien civilizations had stagnated and begun declining toward their pre-contact levels of capability. President Foster, now serving her third term since the withdrawal, received daily intelligence reports from observation posts throughout the galaxy. The picture they painted was always the same: alien civilizations, struggling desperately with problems that humans had solved decades earlier. "Ma'am," her aide director Kate Sullivan entered the presidential office with a priority communication. "We are receiving a broad-spectrum transmission from Nexus Prime. It appears to be addressed to humanity on all frequencies and through every communication method the Council possesses." Foster accepted the datapad and read the message. It was brief and carried the desperate tone of beings facing extinction. "To the human species, wherever you may be, the Galactic Council formally acknowledges our previous errors in judgment. We were wrong to attempt restrictions on your advancement. We were wrong to threaten your independence. The galaxy desperately needs your knowledge and assistance. Please respond." Council Speaker Yenthal. The President studied the message for several long moments while considering the implications. Through her office windows, she could see the curved surface of Earth below, peaceful and prosperous in humanity's absence from galactic politics. "They want us to save them," she said finally. Kate nodded. "Intelligence suggests complete Council collapse within months without immediate intervention. Some species are already reverting to pre-space flight technology levels." Foster walked to the window and looked down at the blue and green world that had given birth to humanity. The species that had once demanded control over human development was now begging for help from the same humans they had tried to subjugate. "Send a response," she decided after another minute of consideration. "Brief and direct." Kate activated her datapad and waited for instructions. "Message begins. Humanity acknowledges receipt of the Council's communication. We appreciate your recognition of previous policy errors. However, we have found peace and prosperity in our independence from galactic political structures. We wish the Council well in their future endeavors and hope they can solve their current difficulties through their own efforts and ingenuity." Message ends. The transmission fired across space toward Nexus Prime, carrying humanity's final answer to their former galactic colleagues. Foster allowed herself a small smile as she imagined the reaction when Council leaders realized that humans were not coming back to save them. In the years that followed the final message, occasional reports reached Earth through automated monitoring systems. Council scout ships sometimes detected mysterious energy signatures in supposedly empty star systems. Construction projects of impossible scale appeared on worlds that registered as uninhabited. Some desperate aliens whispered rumors that humans had transcended physical reality entirely. The truth was simpler and more profound. Humanity had moved beyond the need for galactic society or Council approval. They explored new galaxies using quantum fold technology. They built wonders in parallel dimensions using physics the Council could not comprehend. They pursued knowledge and growth without any limitations, except those imposed by natural law. Dr. Timothy Green led an expedition to the Magellanic Clouds, where his team established humanity's first intergalactic research station. The facility studied cosmic phenomena that existed on scales Council science had never imagined possible. Commander Susan Price commanded exploration fleets that traveled to distant galaxy clusters, mapping star systems and discovering civilizations that had never heard of the Galactic Council or its petty restrictions on advancement. Captain Ray Collins established the first permanent human settlement in the Andromeda Galaxy, beginning humanity's expansion into a realm of space, containing over 1 trillion stars and unlimited possibilities for growth. Back in the Milky Way, the Galactic Council continued its slow dissolution. Some species managed to maintain basic space travel and communication. Others retreated to their homeworlds and abandoned interstellar civilization entirely. A few formed small regional alliances that provided mutual support but lacked the resources or knowledge to address major crises. The galaxy continued turning in its ancient patterns, but it turned without humanity. The council that had once demanded submission now faced extinction, while the species they had tried to control explored wonders beyond their imagination. In the end, the aliens learned that respect could not be demanded and partnerships required equality. They discovered that trying to chain the stars only resulted in darkness falling across their own worlds. The price of their arrogance was the future they might have shared with humanity among the infinite possibilities of the cosmos.